Alright folks, I want to take you through making your first custom class. And the first thing you need to know is, why should I ever make my own classes? And first things first, actually, do you even know that there are such things as classes? For instance, when you type float x equals 1.2, this is the class. We've been using the word type. And you'll find that everything, in math and in computer science and all these sorts of things, everything has kind of, double names, and depending on the context that you're talking about it, it could have a different name. In this case, we refer to the type as the class. In other words, this x has a class float, and the class float isn't very complicated. In fact, it's pretty easy to use, and it's something called a primitive. And it doesn't have any methods or anything like that. So we don't really care about this class because it just behaves like a number. And you know how a number behaves. But as soon as we switch to some sort of fancy class, like an array of floats, now we're working with something that we would consider a class. And this thing can do stuff. And what I mean by do stuff is that I can now, actually make an array, for instance here. So you have to actually have floats in there, because that's what I specified. Let's see, there's our nice array. Okay, there's stuff in it. What we can do with this now is use this name of this float object. Okay, it's an array, it's a float array object called x. We can actually do things with it. And by do things, I mean the dot. So we can say float.size. And we can actually run some methods that actually happen on the x. So we can say, what is x's size? Well, we would run this method to find out. That's the value of object-oriented programming. And the other value is that you can make a whole bunch of something. So if you remember back to Pong, in Pong, we could make more than one ball with the same code that ran one ball. Now this is super important, because it was really difficult to create the ball and make it bounce, so we only want to copy that code once. So I want to show you and walk you through making a object here. And the object that we're going to do is going to be a lightsaber from Star Wars. Oops, got to capitalize it or we'll get in trouble. And the idea of an object is that an object is a model. Okay, so in other words, we want to have the computer know all the variables that are needed to keep track of how that thing works. Okay, and so let me show you how that goes. And this is bad typing here. But if I'm going to make a lightsaber, I'm going to say class lightsaber. Okay, and it's generally it's the way people do it, or the convention, is to capitalize the name of your class. And pro tip here, there are no parentheses. This is a no-no. Lightsaber is not a function or a method, it is a class. So in other words, we're going to have this thing called lightsaber Luke, and it's going to be a new lightsaber. But we don't know how any of this works yet, and in fact we see parentheses here, which is even more confusing. So stay with me here, I'm going to explain this in 2 seconds. So we need to create all the variables that keep track of how a thing works. Well, what does a lightsaber need to have? Well, most importantly, it has to have a color, and we can say color C. Notice here I'm just declaring the variables that a lightsaber needs to be a lightsaber. The lightsaber blade needs a length. So let's say float int length. And that looks like it's a special word, so we'll say blade length. So what else does a lightsaber need to know to do its thing? Well, I don't know, maybe it's like Darth Maul's lightsaber and it's double-edged. So we can say Boolean double. Nope, double's a keyword, that's a special float. Dual, we'll say that. Does it have 2 sides? So there are 2 blades. And that's pretty much all you need to know to create a lightsaber. So these 3 variables, and any combination of these 3 variables are going to help us create a lightsaber. So remember what we're doing here. I need you to stay with it. We're creating a computer model of that true object. Okay, so how does that thing actually work? And these are the things we need to know to get that done. Okay, so this is our basic anatomy of an object. Notice no parentheses, and we're declaring a bunch of variables and not setting them. Okay, the next thing you absolutely have to have is a constructor. So this is a constructor. And a constructor does exactly what you think. It's a function. Notice the parentheses. It's a function that builds your object. And this is the most important method in your whole class. If you don't have this, the thing won't work. So what we're going to do here is set our lightsaber. And let's set a default lightsaber. So every lightsaber that we create is going to look like Luke's from Return of the Jedi. So the color is going to be green. So let's see. I will give it a little bit of lightness. Mostly green though. Okay. Its blade length. So notice we're using these variables that we declared up here. We're setting them down here. This is the act of constructing it. Well, let's set the blade length to be 400. Okay, that's pixels. And then, is it a dual? No, it is not. Luke uses a single-bladed lightsaber. So this is our lightsaber. This is the class. So now when I come up here and I create lightsaber Luke, we have a class now. It creates lightsaber, calls it Luke, and then creates a new lightsaber. This is a keyword. But what is Luke? How do we describe the actual variables inside of Luke's lightsaber? Well, we have to run this constructor method. And that's what this call does. And so that sets his lightsaber. Alright, in the next video I'm going to show you how to do a different kind of constructor, and then we'll make some methods that actually show us the lightsaber.